So you've all seen people try and beat WWE 2K22's MyGM mode with all sorts of restrictions. Today I thought I'd mix that up a bit and instead try to lose. Not only will I try and lose, but as the title suggests, I'll be doing my best to finish the save with the least amount of fans that is physically possible. This video is going to document my journey to becoming the worst GM of all time. A role that was previously achieved by the one and the only John Laurinaitis. Well, John, get ready, because I'm coming for your throne. Right, so let's dive in and start a new MyGM. To be honest, it doesn't really matter who I choose, because obviously I'm just trying to put on bad shows, but I'm going to go with Sonya anyway, because she's clearly the worst. Like I said, it doesn't really matter, because I'm not going to be using any power cards anyway, so this selection is completely irrelevant. Much the same as this selection, but I'm going to go with NXT UK just because it's also clearly the worst. So the GM opponent doesn't really matter either, but I'm going to stick it on Regal anyway because he's probably the best. Then opposing brand, I'm going to go with SmackDown, AI difficulty going to go with hard, and I'm going to keep it to 15 weeks. Okay, so the drafting part. This is probably going to be the funnest bit because I'm literally just choosing the lowest popularity superstars with the lowest stamina possible, so it's going to be an absolute mess. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit Y a bunch of times and go over to popularity and then order it by lowest to highest. Actually, looking at these, they're not that low, so maybe we're going to have to sign some free agents and ruin them instead. First up, we'll go with the Brian Kendrick. Second, we're going to go with Shotzi. Third, Billy Kay. Fourth pick looks like it's got to be Dorado. I want to just say that I'm genuinely just choosing the lowest popularity superstars, so I probably will just skip straight to the booking. Okay, so I've done 8 rounds of the draft and I've got 4 male superstars and 4 female superstars, none of which are popular in the slightest. Some of them, as you can see, have decent stamina, but that really won't matter because I'm genuinely going to end my draft here. Now, the reason I'm going to do this is because I want to go into the game and look at the free agents so I can sign some really, really bad superstars. So yeah, there's the dream team, hopefully going to get boos every single week. And this is what we're up against, so it should be very interesting. I guess it doesn't really matter who I give the championship to, but I'm going to give it to the Brian Kendrick because he's got the lowest popularity. Same rules apply for the female division, it's going to go to Shotzi. Okay, so immediately I'm going to go over to manage roster and have a look at the free agents that are on offer. So it's already ordering them by popularity, so we're just going to go right down to the bottom. Danielle Wallace, Kyle Slickman, and Dante Roberts, hello and welcome to NXT UK. Look at this guy, he's literally just come off of the audio team, I don't understand. Honestly, who are these people? It looks like they've literally gone up to one of the game devs and just shoved a camera in their face and he's awkwardly just given them a wave. He just really looks like he doesn't want to be there. Anyway, yeah, we're going to go ahead and sign all of these people. Okay, so first show, this is where it's just going to go terribly wrong. Opening match, I'm going to go with Tim Burr versus the Red Flame. Bruiser versus Giant, they don't match, and a heel versus heel, so that should be a terrible, terrible fight. Promo, I'm just going to do advertising because that lowers the popularity of the superstars, and Brian Kendrick is currently my most popular one because he's the champion, so I'm going to put him in, and then I'm going to put Shotzi in for an advertising in the second promo slot. Mid-card, we're going to have absolutely no variety, they're all going to be one-on-one normal matches. So this one can be Kyle Slickman versus Brute Force. Fighter versus a Cruiser, and honestly I don't know who makes up these classes because Kyle looks way slighter than Brute. And to give a guy called Brute Force the Cruiser class, it just seems oxymoronic. The main event, right, 1v1, main event, who are we going to put in here? We're going to have Cobra Cut versus Whitney Quaid. Face versus face and clashing styles. Right, I'm actually genuinely excited to see how this goes. I'm never boosting up any of my logistics, everything's taking place in the high school gym. The road crew's going to be with us the whole way, basic lights and effects, and local signs. This is indie wrestling as it should be. Okay, match 1. Tim Burr versus the Red Flame. How's this one going to go down? Brilliant, that is exactly what we want. Awful, half-star rating, Burr and Flame, level 1 rivalry, you're never going to fight again. Or at least we're going to try and not build rivalries up because that will actually increase the ratings. So, perfect start, that's exactly what we want. Match 2, my favourite wrestler, Kyle Slickman versus Brute Force. Slickman wins! Oh wow, the emotions, and it's another awful match. Brilliant, exactly what we want. The big main event, Cora Cut versus Whitney Quaid, who is going to come out on top? Whitney Quaid wins, and it's hopefully... Oh, it's a dull. Okay, so it's not actually a half-star match, but it's still pretty shocking. Right, so you can see we actually gained fans from that show, God knows how, but because you start off with 1 million, we're going to have to try and keep it as close to that initial figure as possible. And hopefully by the end of it, this screen will be looking extremely bad. Okay, week 2 means a whole new pool of free agents, and the good thing about this is I'm always going to have budget to sign them because I'm never actually putting on any good matches. Right, so I'm just going to do the same thing and I'm just going to buy all of these guys. Show 2 then, what's the opening match going to be? We're going to go right down to the bottom and it's going to be Danielle Wallace versus Peyton Royce. Again, we're just going to be trying to plummet our title holders' popularity, so advertising for Shotzi and Brian. Match number 2 can be Nova Northern Light versus Beth Spartan. And then the main event, we're going to go with Kyle Slickman, seeing as he put on such a good show last time, versus the Red Flame. So let's simulate these. Danielle Wallace loses her match to Peyton Royce, that's kind of expected, but it's an awful match, so that's absolutely ideal. Brian Kendrick's popularity is plummeting. I actually feel quite bad for the guy. Now the mid-card, Nova versus Beth, who's going to come out on top? Beth grabs the win in a dull match, so it seems that not every single match is going to be awful, but that should be fine. The big hitter, Kyle Slickman versus the Red Flame. This is an absolute must-see main event. So who's going to come out on top? Kyle again. The guy is undefeated. Awful match. He knows how to win in the worst circumstances. Right, so this time we only gained 23,000 fans, so I'm going to try and keep pushing that down as far as I can. We're down pretty bad on this screen already with a fan deficit of 110,000 in week 2. There are actually no free agents for me to sign this week, so I'm just going to leave it and try and put on some terrible matches without them. The first match can be Clint McDougal versus Triton. Up next we can have Joel Wheeler versus Timber. And the main event can be Sammy George versus Danielle Wallace. First match was Clint McDougal versus Triton, and it actually came out as a 1-star. I'm a little bit worried they're going to keep giving them better ratings, but I'm going to try and keep the matches absolutely dreadful. The mid-card, Joel Wheeler versus Timber. I don't know who's designed Joel's wrestling outfit, it genuinely just doesn't fit him, but we're going to simulate the match and see how it goes. Joel picks up the win in a half-star match, we're back to normality. Main event, Sammy George versus Danielle Wallace. Who's going to come out on top? It's going to be Sammy George. Another awful match though, which is perfect. Apparently we gained 31,000 fans from that show. I honestly don't know who's turning up to these events, but somehow we keep getting more fans. Week number 4 and there's still no free agents, so I must have just bought them all out. Opening the show, we've got the undefeated Kyle Slickman versus Bobby Marquis. In the mid-card, we've got Lula Tandy versus Beth Spartan. And for the main event, we've got Dewey Carter versus Dante Roberts. Can Kyle Slickman keep his undefeated run going? Let's have a look. Of course he can, he's never going to lose a match, the guy is a living legend. He's definitely the MVP of this run, every single match has been awful so far and he hasn't lost a single one. Up next, the mid-card, how's this one going to go down? Hopefully it's another half-star, but I'm assuming it might be a 1-star. Nope, it is another half-star, that's perfect. Main event, Dewey Carter versus Dante Roberts, both cruisers, both faces, surely is a terrible, terrible match. So it gets a 1-star, which I think means that you can't physically get a full card of half-star matches. But that's a challenge that I'm willing to accept. As you can see, still gaining fans, but I assume it's the least you can physically gain. Way over a 200,000 fan difference now, so it's getting pretty ridiculous. For the opening of the first pay-per-view, we're going to have Clint McDougal versus Dante Roberts. Of course, in the main event, we're going to have Kyle Slickman versus the Red Flame. For the last advertising slot, I'm just going to pick my most popular superstar to try and decrease their popularity, and that is Peyton Royce. First mid-card fight is going to be Nova versus Beth, and the second one is going to be Tim Burr versus Bobby Marquis. First up, Clint McDougal versus Dante Roberts. How is this one going to go down? Dante picks up the win in an awful match. Perfect. First match of the mid-card, Nova versus Beth. Who's the winner? Nova picks up the win in another half-star match. Timber versus Bobby Marquis, and Timber picks up the win. Another half-star match, which means that Kyle versus the Red Flame could finish off the perfect half-star show. Come on boys, I believe in you, get that half-star and get Kyle on the main oh no! I can't believe what I'm seeing. It's a half-star match, which means that we have completed the clean sweep of half-stars, but the Red Flame has only gone and ruined Kyle's undefeated run. I don't know why, but I'm actually a little bit gutted. That is a beautiful sight, that chart just looks incredible. We still gained 75,000 fans from that though, so I don't know, maybe people just like putting themselves through terrible, terrible things. There's the latest update, a nice little 330,000 fan deficit. Right, so I didn't even know this was a feature, but because I'm doing so badly, Triple H has actually given me a free Legend Whisperer power card, so I can sign a legend free of charge and boost my ratings. Obviously, I'm not going to be using this, so I'm just going to ignore the email. So that's how the card's looking for week 6, let's see what happens. First match is Wallace vs Royce, and Wallace actually picks up the win. Second match is Kyle vs Bobby, and unfortunately Kyle is looking like he's going on a losing streak. The main event, Tim Burr vs the Red Flame, hopefully we're going to get another half-star match. And we do, so it's another show in a row that's got half stars all across the board. That's the card for week 7. I'm actually going to put Shotzi and Brian Kendrick in matches because their popularity is now so low that they're actually worse than most of the free agents. I was considering making Brian Kendrick vs Kyle Slickman a title match, but then I realised that it would actually boost the rating of the fight. So I might do that for Wrestlemania, but for now they're just going to have a normal match. Let's see if Kyle can get back on his feet with a win. And he can! What an absolute legend, he's taken down Brian Kendrick. I kind of wish I'd made that a title match now, because Kyle Slickman is my champion. Wallace vs Shotzi was another awful match, but Shotzi actually lost, so she could have given up the title as well. And the main event, Triton vs Clint, who's going to come out on top, and it is Clint McDougal in another half-star fight. This is the least amount of fans we've gained by far, with only 15,000. And the comments on the right are actually getting quite hilarious. Most of them are incredibly negative towards NXT UK, but this guy right here, 450 follower UK, knows what he's talking about. That's how the card's going to look for week number 8, so hopefully it's going to be another awful show. First match, Tim Burr picks up the win, and it's another awful fight. On the mid-card, we've got Wallace vs Royce, and Royce actually picks up the win this time. Main event, the Red Flame vs Bobby Marquis, and the Red Flame obviously picks up the dub with another awful match. I think that's the 4th straight show where I've got nothing but half-star fights. Right, I think I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to put Brian Kendrick in a match with Kyle Slickman for the title. The rest of the fights are going to be terrible still, so hopefully we can keep the poor ratings coming. Right, this is a big moment. Kyle versus Brian for the title. Who is going to pick up the win? Kyle does it, and he wins the title! It might be a dull fight, but that's actually way worse than I thought it was going to be. This is huge. Kyle is now the king of NXT UK. This guy is going down as my favourite wrestler of all time. I don't care if he has no wrestling experience. Anyway, on to the mid-card, Wallace vs George. Who's going to win? George picks up the win, hopefully a half star. There it is. Love to see it. Cruiser vs Cruiser, Dante vs Dewey. Who's going to win? It is Dante Roberts picking up the win with a half-star match. It's just beautiful. We're a pretty healthy amount off SmackDown now, but I want to try and get that deficit to 1 million fans. It's the TLC pay-per-view, and Regal has actually vetoed Kyle Slickman. But that's fine because his popularity is actually increasing quite a lot, so we need to give him a bit of a break. On the other hand, Brian Kendrick's popularity really is at rock bottom. So he's going to go up against Tim Burr in the main event of the TLC pay-per-view. That's how the rest of the card looks, let's see how it goes. Pay-per-view opening fight, Clint vs Dewey, and it's a 1-star dull match, not the start we wanted. Wheeler vs Brute Force though is a half-star, we're back on track. Whitney vs Lula is another awful match, so it looks like the pay-per-view might be saved. Amazing main event from Brian Kendrick and Tim Burr, it's granted a half-star, what a way to wrap up the show. Unfortunately, Kyle Slickman is getting too popular, so we're going to have to throw him in some advertising promos. That's how the card's looking for week 11, let's get into the show. So the first match between Brian Kendrick and Burr was a half-star, and this one's picked up a 1-star. So not ideal, but we move on and hopefully get a half-star in the main event. Bobby Marquis wins the main event and gets us that final half-star rating. Thank you, Bobby, great work. Right, so we've actually only just gained 11,000 fans. So somehow we're still gaining fans, but we're getting dangerously close to 4 figures. Let's keep the terrible shows coming. So that's how it's all looking. We've got Nova vs Cora in the main event, we've then got Dewey vs Dante in the mid-card, and Wallace vs Shotzi as the opener. And then of course an advertising from Kyle because he's getting too OP. First match and Shotzi comes out on top, and it's another half-star match. The mid-card is much the same result, with Dante picking up the win. Time for a big hitting main event, and Cora's won the match in a 1-star fight. Week 13's card has Sammy vs Danielle in the opener, Beth vs Lula is the mid-card, and then the Red Flame vs Kyle Slickman, a classic fight as the main event. First fight, George vs Wallace, and it's a half-star. Beth vs Lula suffers the same fate. Now for the big one, Kyle Slickman's return to NXT UK, and of course he gets the win in a half-star match. This guy needs a serious nerf. He's way too good. Week 14 show consists of Brian Kendrick vs Tim Burr, Nova vs Whitney, and Brute Force vs Bobby Marquis. Good or bad depending on how you look at it, start to the show with Brian Kendrick picking up the win in a half-star match. Nova vs Whitney is another half-star, so hopefully we can get the perfect show. Bobby picks up the win in the main event, and it's another awful fight, meaning that we've got the perfect card. I cannot believe it, but we've actually managed to get 1,361 fans from that last show. I think the least we had before this was 11,000, so this is a huge drop off just before Wrestlemania. It doesn't really seem like SmackDown's doing well though, as they're really not putting a huge gap between us and them. I think they've gone 3 weeks in a row now where they've only gained 10,000 fans maximum. So here it is, week 15, the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania. Of course, immediately the main event is going to be Kyle Slickman versus the Brian Kendrick. I'm also going to put the title on the line, which is a little bit risky, but I want to end with a bang. For the opener, we're going to have Dewey Carter versus Dante Roberts. The first mid-card fight will be Brute versus Tim. Then we're going to go with Nova versus Cora. Then finally, we're going to have Triton versus Clint McDougal. Let's advance and see how this goes. WrestleMania's opening match, Dewey vs Dante, and Dewey picks up the win in a 1-star event. Definitely not how we wanted to start the card, but hopefully the rest can all be half stars. Brute vs Tim restoring normality with an awful match. Nova vs Cora also gets a half star, so things are looking a little bit up. Triton vs Clint McDougal makes it 3 in a row, so now it's all on the main event. And of course, this is the only fight in the whole of the run I actually care about. Kyle, you've dominated NXT UK since the day I signed you. Please pick up the win and retain your title in the biggest show of the year. Unbelievable, man. I can't believe that this game has done that to Kyle. All I've ever wanted is Kyle Slickman to succeed at not succeeding. And they've gone and made Brian Kendrick the champion on the last match of the run. I feel a little bit sick, but let's advance and see how bad the damage is. Somehow we gained 121,000 fans from that show. I know it was WrestleMania, but you genuinely couldn't pay me to watch that. Anyway, here are the final scores in terms of the fans for each brand. I feel like you probably could get our number lower, but as you can see throughout the whole of the run, I tried to do every single thing wrong. Maybe if you continuously fought people and really lowered their stamina it would get worse, but I'm not so sure. So that concludes my playthrough of GM mode trying to gain as few fans as possible. I think I did a pretty good job, but it has made me curious as to whether you could do an entire run where you only ever get half-star matches. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more MyGM challenges, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.